This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. You can find all my work at mjmunoz.com. I am unbelievable. I surprise myself sometimes. Well, let me stop real quick and say, this is Story Over Everything, episode I'm not sure which one yet, because I'm in flux. I'm a creature of mercurial nature. You can never tell exactly what I'm going to do, or where I'm going to go, or how I'm going to title things. So, that's not a brag, and that's also not a self-recrimination. It's just me being honest and open with you. Just like I'm going to be honest and open with you and tell you that I had planned on this Squall Charlson interview for, I don't know, not less than a week, maybe 3 or 4 days. And I refused to. I thought about it, but I refused to ultimately test out the recording system for StreamYard, which I was trying for the very first time. And I've been interested in StreamYard for a long time, probably over a year, and I've never tried it myself because I thought, oh, it's not for me, it's too expensive. But I thought, you know what, I'm gonna wing it this time. It's a duck joke because StreamYard's logo is a duck. You don't think that was funny? All right, anyway, sorry. Moving on. So I went on StreamYard with Squall. I invited him. There was no issue. It was super great. He was great. He was on time. In fact, he was waiting for me a little bit. And I finally got there because I was like, I don't know. I was just distracted for some reason. And I got there, and he was gracious enough to be real cool. And we talked. We had a good conversation. We talked about a bunch of stuff. And it was a great conversation. And at the end of it, I realized, I don't think I recorded that. And he said, no, I'm sure you did, right? And I said, no, I'm pretty sure I didn't. And then I hit a button, and then he said, oh, there it goes. It's recording, because it told us both that we were recording, whereas it didn't tell us both that we were recording when I said I'd hit the recording button. So, yeah, that did not go well, and it's all my fault, and I should have been more careful. And he was gracious enough to say, hey, you know what? Not a big deal. When you have time, let me know. We can redo this. And I said, okay. And then I thought about it, and I thought, I don't want to waste this guy's time. He was cool enough to do the interview, and he was cool enough to, not waste time. We didn't waste time. We talked about things in an interesting way. I think I'll plan to do a little bit more of a structured conversation with him about the next book, but this was really good. It was a good talk. It was a good conversation. I had fun. I don't know if you would have enjoyed it, but but I know I had fun, and he seemed like he had a good time. So I thought, that really sucked to just, have him redo this thing all over again. Especially because some of the stuff that he said in this episode, I know he said to people previously, because I listened to at least one of his other interviews, which I'm going to include the links to the other interviews that he did. I'm going to include the links to the other interviews that he did in the show notes here, and you can check those out as well. Those are, anyway. I've listened to one of them already at the time of this recording, and it was good, and I do plan on listening to the other one. I just had poorly managed my time, and I was not able to until here we are now, and I haven't. So, anyway, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the book based on my thoughts, my experience with it, my reading of it, and my reactions to it, and then I will include the small amount of extra redoubled, looped interview that I did with Squall at the end of it, because I thought, I owe it to this guy to at least, not keep him for very long, but, have him say something. So you get to hear a little bit of Squall talking about the book and kind of giving a pitch for it, and I'm right along there with him saying, yeah, this is a good book, I enjoyed it, and I'm going to tell you about why I enjoyed it, how I enjoyed it now. I'm not going to go into spoilers in this discussion of the book. This is another book chat, I guess you could say. It's an unofficial Skimming Leaves episode, I could just make it an official Skimming Leaves episode. That's fine with me. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. I enjoyed talking to him originally, but yeah, it's a cool book. I'll talk about some of the fun points in it, and then I will let you hear the micro interview with Squall. And actually, good news for you, we will be back in December. Maybe January, though, because it comes out really late in December, and I don't know what his plans are for the holidays or anything like that. So maybe January we'll be back, and there will be a Squall Charlson interview, a real one, an official one, done here on this channel, on Story Over Everything, and you'll get to listen to that and enjoy it. And yeah, that's the plan. So that's going to be for the second book in the Terror Valley series, and now I'm going to talk about the first book in the Terror Valley series, which is called School's Out, for never. So I'll spend the first 5 minutes or so talking about the book in a non-spoiler way, and then I might talk about a couple spoilers, actually sharing some insights of stuff that I talked about with Squall, so in the interview that wasn't recorded. So, I liked the book. I thought it was good. There was nothing inappropriate in it, although there was definitely scary things that happened and people being bad. Another question has popped into my mind now that I'm thinking about it, but I'll get to that later. But yeah, it was very good. Squall talks about these books being in the vein of R.L. Stine's Goosebumps, at least the original 62. I don't know what makes the distinction of the later Goosebumps books. Are they, less scary, more scary? Are they more in one genre or another? I'm not exactly sure about that. But I didn't realize that there were 62 Goosebumps books, and Squall says he was reading those when he decided that he could write this stuff, and so he did, which is pretty fun. He and I have a similarity in that we both found Goosebumps to be interesting. Like, it wasn't always just a scary story, but there's something sometimes deeper in those stories, sometimes a really good character story. And I don't know if Squall set out to write this as a deeper kind of character study type thing, and not just something that has chills and thrills and scares in it, but it does have a really nice emotional core to it, and I really did enjoy that. So for those who don't know, and Squall's going to talk about this too, I think, in the interview, it's basically Groundhog's Day meets what? meets school, I guess you could say. It's a middle grade horror book, and that's what it is. This kid's repeating the last day of school, the last day of the year before he gets to go out for summer, which is where the title comes from, which is a great title. And I believe Squall said he came up with the title first, then developed the concept. So that's a pretty fun thing to do, a pretty fun way to do it. I think there's a lot of a lot of energy, there's a lot of enthusiasm. Even though the story was it had its sweet moments and it had its interesting moments and its introspective moments rather, I could feel a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of excitement coming through the book the whole way through, which is really great. And it's funny. Well, it's funny. It's a funny book. It starts out really funny. A little mundane. The characters are interesting. There's not really boring parts that you want to skip or gloss over or anything like that, but the setting is very much mundane. It's just an ordinary day at school, and this isn't really spoilers because it's a book that has this Groundhog's Day type thing going on, and it's in the blurb and everything. It's just a normal day at school, and it's a day that sucks for the main character, Freddie Shiner, and I don't know, it was sort of homey, sort of nostalgic from my school days. He captured that really well. I feel like Squall captured the real aspects of school, and then the TV sitcom, Wonder Years, Boy Meets World, whatever else you watched, type of aspects of that kind of world and that life that kids have. And I thought it did it in a really cool way, and I really enjoyed that. And excuse me. It was a really cozy, nice book. There were funny moments in it, and it just kind of, slid me into the mindset. It kind of lulled me to sleep, put me in the thinking of being back in school, back in the day, and what it was like. And then there's the trigger, I guess you could say, and things start to ramp up, and essentially, and again, this is not a spoiler, essentially Freddy dies, and then he wakes up again in class, just like he woke up again in class, or woke up in the first chapter of the book. And that starts the loop, it starts the cycle, it gets you into it, it gets you introduced to what exactly is going on in this world, in this time and place, and it's cool, it's very effective. It's not, a groundbreaking, earth-shattering concept. We've had loops, and obviously there's the famous Groundhog's Day, which apparently is based off of a book. I believe in a previous interview, Squall did say that the book called Replay is actually what got turned into Groundhog's Day. I think that's what he said. But he talked about it in our interview, but of course, that's the one I lost. So, anyway, so that's really interesting. It's, it's a novel concept, but it's something that's been done in a lot of things. And I think Squall did a really good job of it. It never got boring. It never got tedious. The ways that Freddy dealt with it and branched off were novel and interesting, and again, it was entertaining the whole way through. There's a mystery where there's like a monster or a creature or a bad guy after Freddy too in this world, and you kind of have to figure out how that works as you're reading the book. And most things become clear, but there was something that happened at the end of the book that I hadn't even really noticed, and there was something that he explained to me. I can go into spoiler territory here. There was something that Squall explained to me, and I didn't really catch it at first, but then as I let him explain the whole thing, I understood what he was going for, and it made sense. And while it didn't hit me that way, it still worked, because while I didn't understand the author's intent, the effect of what he showed, not the motivations behind it, but the effect of what he showed in the book was scary and did add a level of threat and a level of suspense. And then, actually, this same character, who I did not realize was the same character, ends up, again, this is the spoiler section, so if you don't want to hear it, then listen away, ends up going after Freddy and trying to kill him, even if it kills them. And that was really interesting. And even at that part of the book, like, stuff's on fire, there's a knife being brandished, like, Freddy's very obviously going to die if something else doesn't happen, and gosh, that was really interesting. And like, I don't know if technically that would be the climax. I don't think it is the climax, but it was like a very climactic set of events. And then after that, it's not like, I guess maybe that is the climax, and this is the denouement, because you get some revelations and you get to understand a little bit better the nature of the world and how it's moving and how it's going, and it's really interesting and exciting. And I don't think he went too far with it. I definitely think this is something a kid could handle, especially in a book. Maybe seeing it on a TV show or depicted in a movie, seeing it depicted on screen visually with real people might be too much. Seeing it in a cartoon might be okay. And that was something that Squall and I talked about too, like, reading it, processing it through a book, through the medium of written word. It's a lot different than it is to see it, and like, you can kind of have a little more wiggle room, you kind of have a little more leeway, and I definitely feel like he pushed the envelope. But again, I don't think he went too far, and I enjoyed everything that he put in there. And it was creepy and a little scary, and not like I was scared that something was going to happen to me, but I was just that Freddy really felt like he was in danger, and that was really interesting and really fun. So it was good in that respect. Excuse me. We talked a little bit about how the intricacies of the looping thing worked, and I thought it was really fascinating how he planned it out. Basically, he started off with the idea and then said, well, this is how I want it to end, and then what do I have to provide in the beginning or throughout the story for it to work that way. And while he doesn't really plan on doing sequels to these books, as he was nearing the end of Terror Valley Book 1, which is, again, School After Never, he said, I should add some things in that could be potential sequel bait. And he told me that he was actually going to add an additional looper into the story, and that I picked up on a character being potentially having gone through these loops as well. And anyway, it was really cool, because like I was telling him, I almost exclusively want to write series. And I find it commendable that you are able to take an idea that's so cool, take such a neat, fun idea that you could really play with, and something that I, in fact, thought about after I was done reading the book. I thought, is there a plot hole here? Is there a plot hole there? How do these things work out with each other? Who is this character? What are they? What kind of monster is it? Whatever. And how many more stories could you tell just at this school, just at this class, just with the 5th grade, just with whoever else was involved? Are there stories from the past that you could tell? Would you want to do that? Why would you do that? What would the motivation be? If they're all looping, then how exciting can that be? But even so, I thought maybe you could make it more exciting by having loops, and maybe you do a kid looping in every era, or you could do just 5th graders loop, and just do a whole long series of just 5th graders looping different days of the school year, even. Like, that would be super interesting. But Squall saw that opportunity, and he said, I'm going to put that away. I'm not going to do that with this book, but I am going to add in some things at the end here that could open it up for a sequel if I wanted there to be one. And I thought that was really interesting. And he mentioned, that it would kind of be cool for people to one day say, oh, I really like Terror Valley, or School's Out for Never. That's my favorite Terror Valley book. Are they going to do another one? Can they do another one? Where's the next one? That kind of thing. And then he can say, well, actually, I have these little seeds planted here. So he mentioned that he was going to do that for his next book, which is coming out December 19th, 2023. It's called You're Not My Sensei, and I'll let him give the pitch in the interview. But that sounds like a fun book. I think it's cool that his first book stars a boy, and the second book stars a girl, and that while Freddy's dealing with regular school angst or whatever, I don't imagine that Remy, who's the girl in the next book, is going to be looping, but she is kind of dealing with a totally different environment. It's similar. It's definitely a kid environment, but it's not just another story set in school. So that's fun, and it's nice already that Squall's kind of planning things out to have them branch out and be each thing be its own thing for now. And I think that's good. And I told him I look forward to reading the next one, and I do. And I look forward to successfully recording an interview with him at that time to discuss that book, that second book, and then we'll just have School's Out for Never be the lost episode, except for the mini interview that I'm going to have with him here at the end. So anyway, it was a good book. I recommend you go out and get it now. You can get it on Kindle Unlimited, or you can buy it paperback. You can buy it digital. I bought a digital copy of it just because I'm trying to protect the Earth, man. And so anyway, I advised the book. It was a good read. It was a fun read. Squall talks about how he wanted this to be like a movie, and I ended up calling it a movie at some point in our interview. And he was like, there you go, it's a movie. You're even saying it. And I said, yeah, you're right. And it does feel like a movie. It's got that good kind of pacing. And gosh, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And there was nothing, I don't know. It was definitely kid appropriate. You don't have to be worried about giving it to one of your kids. And that was one of the things Squall said, that he's been working with kids recently, or as of late, I guess you could say. And he wanted this to be something that would be great for kids to read, and that other than the interesting people who say everything's the devil, that probably nobody would have much of an issue with him or with the content of the book. And I agree, as a concerned parent, as a concerned father, I have advised my kid to read the book, and I think it would be totally appropriate, and I think there's something to learn, there's something to benefit from in reading this book. Yeah, there is. There definitely is. Not only the entertainment, but there's a secondary thing with Freddy's character arc and with his growth that happens in the story. That's really cool, and I'll leave it at that. You should go check it out. It's a cool book, fun book, scary, creepy, suspenseful, but also poignant. Poignant makes you think, and I really enjoyed it. I've said that a few times, so I'm going to stop saying it now. Anyway, I will let the interview play now, and I think I have an outro attached to that, so I'm not going to do an outro here. So one issue with the audio is that my volume is very low, so I brought Squall down to my level, literally, and you're just going to have to crank it up so you can hear the episode well, or the interview. It's about 6 minutes long, so go ahead and do that and enjoy. I will test out my microphone next time before we record. So, Squall, we're back.
Hello, we're back. But wait a minute, we never put an episode out to begin with.
No, we didn't, because I am a fool, and I failed to test things properly, and I touched one recording button that wasn't really a button, and I thought we did a whole 45-minute long thing of recording, and we didn't. And I apologize to you, 1,000 apologies for wasting your time.
No, it's good. We've all been there.
So, yeah, actually, the guy didn't name drop earlier. I was accidentally an hour late to him because I didn't understand the time zones, and he was super chill, and he was like, "Hey, it's no big deal. I understand. Let's just do this." And we had a really good conversation. So, yeah, I don't know what to say other than I'm so sorry. This will be a lesson for me, a lesson long remembered for me, because I totally botched this, and again, I'm sorry. But Squall, we had you here to talk, and we talked about your book Terror Valley. We talked about your history. Well, we talked about a bunch of stuff that we won't go into right now. If we do a re-recording, great. If not, why don't you just tell us 3 minutes? Terror Valley. It was a great book. I read it. I enjoyed it. It was like a movie in my mind reading that book. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it and where people can find you, and we'll see what happens next.
Well, let's start the timer. Hey, I'm Squall Charlson, and you may know me from few different places, but primarily it's probably going to be Tokusatsu, where I did a lot of content back in the day through different official mediums, through my own YouTube, through all this other crap. But basically, my passion, my dream has always been since I was a child to become an author, and I've been trying to write a book for a few years now, and just having a full-time job, just doing all this stuff in between has just been really, really hard to sort of continue that and to sort of keep it up. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to write something a little bit smaller, something for younger kids who I work with or in my life all the time, just kind of do something fun for them. So I wrote a book series called Terror Valley, and the first book, School's Out for Never, is available now, and it's about a young boy named Freddie Shiner who, on his very last day of 5th grade, finds that once the day comes to a close, as soon as the school bell rings, his day repeats over and over again. And, he starts noticing things here and there, like there start to be harder questions on tests. Yeah, I know, who does tests on the last day of school? The teachers seem to be a little bit meaner. His friends are different, and that he might not be the only one looping. If you want to check that out, it's pretty good. It's like a 2-3 hour read. It's meant for like middle grade, young adult, Goosebump theme, Goosebump vein, horror. Just, I don't know what else to say, go check it out. It's fun. You can find us over at terrorvalley.com. You can buy the book on Amazon if you type in Terror Valley or my name, Squall Charlson, and get yourself a copy for, the young one in your life, or, indulge yourself a little bit. Go back to those golden days of Goosebumps and tear into something that's just as fun. Back to you.
Just as fun. I am not the 62 book Goosebumps reader like Squall is, but I read my fair share of Goosebumps back in the day, and I enjoyed those a lot. And I really enjoyed this, like I said earlier. And it's ironic, in a weird cosmic way, I've made you into a little bit of Freddie Shiner today with looping this interview. And I'm so sorry once again, but it was a great book. I really enjoyed it. I want there to be, I think there's sequel potential, although we talked about that. And
I hit a few things in there.
Yeah, and that's good. That's excellent. You want to have those open loops that you can come back to if need be. If there's
I just re-released the exact same book again.
That's a great idea. Underneath, you can just call it The Quest for More Money, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was great, and I enjoyed our time talking. But unfortunately for the listeners, this is where it ends. So in our own way, we got our horror experience of looping, and the audience, if they wanted to hear more about it, they get a horror show too, and that they're not going to get what they wanted, because that's how life is sometimes, right?
Yeah. We've all been there. But hey, if you want a full episode, let us know. We'll come back. We'll do a full one. Maybe just save it for the next book, number 2 that's coming out. It's called You're Not My Sensei, and it's about this young girl named Remy who moves to a new school and new town, and her favorite hobby is karate. So she joins the only karate dojo that's in the area and finds out that it's full of karate zombies. You'll want to check that one out. It comes out in December. We can maybe talk then.
I love this one released October 6th, and the next one's going to be December. Do you know which date yet?
19th.
19th. Okay, cool. So like barely 3 months in between them, right?
Trying to do one every other month.
Okay, that's fantastic. I love that. That's great. So
mostly because my wife said you shouldn't do one a month, which I was going to, but she's like, no, just give yourself a little bit of a break. And I was like, all right,
listen to your wife. She's always
right. Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, folks, that's it for now. We'll probably just come back and do the next one, because I'm sure I'll enjoy that one, and we'll have even more to talk about. But there are already great interviews out there with at least 2 other channels, I believe. So I'll leave links to those in the description, as well as everything for you to help you find Squall's, where he is, and his page, so you can buy the book yourself and get it. It's also in Kindle Unlimited if you wanted to go that route. But I say just buy the book. It's great. Do it.
I mean, Kindle Unlimited is great too. It's free. Might as well.
Yeah, why not? All right. Well, once again, Squall, thank you so much. And until next time, folks, this is MJ signing out. Take care. I hope you enjoyed that. Go to mjmunoz.com to leave any questions, comments, or other feedback you might have. There you can find all of my analysis, art, and fiction. I cover books, tokusatsu, comic books, anime, and more. Look around. You're sure to find something else that you'll enjoy as well. This has been a Story Over Everything production.